Chapter 1. Go buy me a box of condoms. The pill is bad for Jasmine's health. Fresh from one sexual encounter, Ethan Hawthorne leisurely adjusted his tie. He was already preparing for the next. As Ethan Hawthorne's fiancée, Lee Vance, saw nothing wrong with his request. I just silently pulled on my clothes, mumbled an okay, and went out to buy them. By the time I returned, Ethan was gone. I expertly took out my phone, opened up my social media, and checked the trending topics. Just as I expected, Ethan had gone to see Jasmine Miller again. I habitually scrolled down to read the comments, which were uniformly supportive of them. An old flame's power is no joke. The moment Jasmine came back to the country, Mr. Hawthorne signed her to his company. Talk about having an inside track. Seriously, why doesn't Mr. Hawthorne just dump Lee Vance and get with our darling Jasmine? The person above is right. What right does that groupie Lee have to fight with our Jasmine over a man? I read through the vicious comments with a blank expression, feeling deep down that the netizens were right. Jasmine was young, beautiful, and vibrant. She'd won a Best Actress award right after her debut. Most importantly, she was Ethan's old flame. And I, Lee Vance, was just a D-list actress everyone loved to hate. How could I possibly compare to Jasmine? Perhaps the only thing I had on her was my shameless, desperate persistence. But that would end now. With a few taps of my finger, I unpinned Ethan's chat. Then, in disguise, I went to the city police department. Miss Vance, are you certain you want to erase your official records? Once this is done, the person named Lee Vance will cease to exist in this world. I didn't hesitate for a second. I'm sure. Please process it in 1 month. In 1 month, I would leave this city for good. I would return to the International Peacekeeping Force, pick up my scalpel again, and be a combat medic. As for Ethan Hawthorne, the man I'd been with for 3 years, I was done with him. Chapter 2. After leaving the police department, I went to the cemetery to visit the graves of my fallen comrades. But from a grave on the hill behind, I heard the familiar sounds of passion. I followed the sight of 2 entangled figures on the ground, my gaze piercing deep into the woods. My fingertips trembled uncontrollably. Ethan, my love, I love you so much. I'm so jealous that Lee gets to be by your side. Jasmine's nails dug deep into Ethan's back, drawing beads of blood. Ethan grunted, then scoffed. Jealous of her for what? You're the one I love, not her. If my mother hadn't given her half the company shares, I would have shaken off that clingy baggage ages ago. A coy smile played on Jasmine's lips. So that's why you brought me here to fool around in front of your mother's grave. Well, you were the one who said you wanted to try something thrilling. It felt like ants were devouring my heart. The pain was sharp and suffocating, yet not a single tear fell. I curled my lips into a scornful smile. 3 years ago, I'd used every trick in the book to become Ethan's girlfriend. I knew he didn't love me. I knew he still had feelings for Jasmine. But I still chose to be submissive, to be the perfectly obedient girlfriend. I let his tabloid scandals run wild, let the world call me a groupie who slept her way to the top, and let Ethan's humiliations grow more and more severe. All I hoped for was that one day he would change his ways and settle down with me. That hope might have had a chance of becoming a reality, but then Jasmine returned, and everything changed. I walked in the rain for a long time. By the time I got back to the villa, I was frozen stiff. A silk nightdress was thrown in my face, catching me off guard. My body went weak, and I collapsed onto the floor. Oh my, I'm so sorry, Lee, Jasmine's voice came from upstairs. My heart trembled. I watched her closely as she walked towards me. I just got back to the country and haven't found a place to live yet. It's a good thing you and Ethan took me in. Otherwise, I'd be sleeping on the streets, Jasmine said with a sweet smile, a challenge glinting in her eyes. I frowned. You took me in? Since when did Ethan speak for me? Jasmine is delicate. She's not used to small rooms. You'll clear out the master bedroom for her later. Ethan descended the stairs slowly, his tone brooking no argument. He didn't notice my rain-soaked clothes, or more accurately, he noticed, but he didn't care. When I didn't respond, Ethan grew impatient. Are you deaf or mute? Say something. My throat felt tight. I choked out, okay. That's more like it. Behave and I'll make sure you're taken care of for life, Ethan said arrogantly. Before I could say anything, Ethan swept Jasmine into his arms, a displeased look on his face. Why aren't you wearing shoes again? Are you trying to get sick? A blush crept up Jasmine's cheeks. Ethan, my love, don't be like this. Lee is still here. So what? This is my house, not hers. The little color that had returned to my face drained away, leaving it as white as a sheet. A popular comment I'd seen online echoed in my mind. A girl has no real home. The sounds of their lovemaking drifted from upstairs. My expression grew cold, unnervingly calm. Chapter 3. The next day, I woke up early out of habit to make Ethan breakfast, but I found Jasmine already busy in the kitchen. And helping her was Ethan, a man who hadn't woken up early in centuries. Ethan was an incredibly picky man. He would sleep in every day, yet he demanded that I wake up early to prepare him a perfect, gourmet breakfast. If anything was even slightly off, he would give me the silent treatment for days. Once, my period cramps were so severe that I was just 1 minute late serving his breakfast. Ethan flew into a rage. He accused me of crossing his line. But now, here he was, up early and helping Jasmine. The sight of them laughing together was a knife in my heart. I should have known. Ethan's boundaries only applied when it came to me. But Ethan, doesn't your heart ache at all? My eyes started to redden, but when I met Ethan's mocking gaze, I forced myself to remain composed. Ethan's face darkened instantly. Jasmine has been slaving away in the kitchen since dawn, while you have no sense of awareness for someone living under another's roof. Jasmine feigned annoyance. Ethan, my love, Lee is the lady of this house. How can you say that about her? Lady of the house? Ethan sneered. Is she worthy? I suppressed the storm raging inside me and looked calmly into Ethan's cold eyes. Ethan, we need to talk, he scoffed. I have nothing to talk about with you. Not even about the half of the company shares your mother gave me? Ethan, who had been about to leave, froze. His expression grew tense. What do you want to talk about? He asked, his tone hostile. I glanced at the impatient Jasmine out of the corner of my eye, lowering my gaze to hide the sarcasm within. I can give you my half of the shares, but I have 3 conditions. First, for the next month, you will be good to me. Genuinely, and only to me. Second, you will post on social media and clarify to the public that I am not a groupie who used the casting couch to climb the social ladder. Third, you will come with me to the cemetery to pay respects to an old friend. Ethan frowned, displeased. No, which one is a no? All of them are a no. I let out a cold, heartless laugh. Ethan, I'm not negotiating with you. This is an order. If you refuse, I have no problem selling my half of the shares to someone else. I held up my phone, my expression colder and more unfamiliar than he had ever seen. It made Ethan freeze for a moment. The Lee who had always chased after him seemed to have changed. At the same time, Ethan's phone vibrated. It was a file I had sent him, a share transfer agreement. I'll give you 1 day to think about it, I said, my voice leaving no room for argument. After 1 day, it's up to you whose name gets written as the second party on this agreement. With that, I turned and left without a single glance back. Ethan stared at my resolute back, an inexplicable sense of loss weighing on his heart. Ethan, my love, is Lee angry with me? Is that why she's treating you like this? Jasmine, her eyes red, clung to his arm. Her tear-filled gaze made it look as if she were the one who had been deeply wronged. Ethan offered a half-hearted reassurance. It has nothing to do with you. She's just having some kind of fit. Don't worry. Lee is so hopelessly in love with me, she would never dare to sell those shares. Chapter 4. After leaving me with a kitchen full of dirty dishes to clean, Ethan and Jasmine left for the office. I stared at the mess for a long time, and for the first time ever, I didn't clean it up. I just went back to my room and quietly packed my things. In the 3 years I'd lived in the Hawthorne house, I'd accumulated pathetically few belongings. Everything fit into a single suitcase. As I packed a photo of myself with my old comrades, a flicker of hope finally sparked in my dead heart. Tears instantly blurred the face of the man in the picture. The man was not just related to Ethan Hawthorne. He was his spitting image. The only difference was the look in his eyes when he gazed at me. One was warm and sincere, the other was full of contempt. Unfortunately, Ethan didn't remember a thing. I sighed softly and placed the photo at the very bottom of the suitcase. My phone suddenly rang, the noise of a dinner party buzzing in my ear. I didn't need to guess. Ethan had taken Jasmine to another social function. I suddenly found it hilarious. The netizens all said I had shamelessly latched onto Ethan to climb the ladder. It honestly baffled me. I could accept them calling me a groupie, but saying I was after Ethan for his resources was absurd. If there had been any improper transactions between us, I wouldn't still be a D-list actress that everyone loved to hate. If anyone deserved the title of a social climbing groupie, it was Jasmine, wasn't it? Lee, Ethan is having a heart attack, you have to come save him. I didn't even have time to think. I sped to the party like the wind. The moment I pushed the door open, a bucket of red wine was dumped over my head, extinguishing the last flickering ember of hope in my heart. Ha ha ha, Mr. Hawthorne really found himself a lapdog girlfriend. Yeah, I've never seen an idiot rush in so recklessly, Miss Vance. You must really be in deep with Mr. Hawthorne. No wonder Mr. Hawthorne hasn't gotten tired of you after all this time. You're so entertaining, Miss Vance, ha ha ha. Waves of mockery filled my ears. The fat, greasy-looking executives around the room shot lewd glances my way, their eyes scanning the curves of my wine-soaked clothes. Seeing Ethan sitting on a sofa, perfectly fine, the knot in my chest finally loosened. I truly didn't want to see him suffer from his congenital heart condition, but at the same time, a fire of rage grew inside me. I couldn't help but ask him, why would you use your heart condition to play a trick on me? Ethan knew perfectly well how much I cared about his heart, to an extent that even he couldn't comprehend. Yet he still let Jasmine and these strangers humiliate me. Looking into my intensely serious and determined eyes, Ethan's heart skipped a beat for a rare moment. It was Jasmine who broke the tension. Everyone was just trying to have a little fun with you. Why are you being so serious, Lee? Her words were followed by a roar of laughter. I felt exhausted, body and soul. I was about to leave when Ethan called out, "Did I say you could go? Come back, sit here and drink for me." I didn't say a word. I sat down beside him in silence, taking one drink after another for him. More and more groping hands reached for me. It was becoming hard to fend them off, but I never once thought of asking Ethan for help. Seeing that I refused to show any sign of weakness, Ethan grew increasingly agitated. It wasn't until I stepped away to go to the restroom and someone slipped something into my drink that Ethan finally snapped. His fist smashed into the man's face with a sickening thud, punch after punch landing until the man's face was a bloody mess. Jasmine stumbled back in fear, but quickly rushed forward to pull Ethan away. "Ethan, my love, you'll kill him if you keep going," the man was still sputtering curses. "Ethan Hawthorne, you fucking dare to hit me? She's just a woman, why can you have her and I can't? Even if Lee is my unwanted trash, she's not for you to touch." There was a sound from the doorway. Ethan looked up and saw me staring at him, my dark eyes devoid of any warmth. For some reason, a wave of panic washed over him. I tilted my head and smiled. Unwanted, trash, perfect. The last shred of hope I had for Ethan Hawthorne had vanished without a trace. Chapter 5. I turned and walked away, automatically blocking out the sound of Ethan flipping a table behind me. After wandering aimlessly for the afternoon, I still made it home before midnight. There was no trace of Jasmine in the house. Only Ethan, reeking of alcohol, was dozing on the sofa. I subconsciously moved quietly, but I still woke him. "Why didn't you answer my texts?" Ethan's tone was harsh. My voice was flat. My phone died. The next second, my phone, as if to spite me, vibrated. I calmly rejected the spam call and looked up at Ethan, but I didn't see a trace of anger or embarrassment on his face. Strange. "I agree to your 3 conditions. When can we sign the share transfer agreement?" Ethan's eagerness was palpable. I lowered my eyes. "In 1 month. After you've fulfilled the conditions, the shares will naturally be yours." "Fine." Ethan's expression softened considerably, though he couldn't hide his exhaustion. He habitually ordered me to make him a soup to sober him up. "I'm tired. Make it yourself." With that, I ignored his shocked and disbelieving gaze and went upstairs without looking back. I wasn't lying. I really was tired. Not long after my shower, I fell asleep with my hair still damp. I had a long, hazy dream. I dreamed of my time as a medic in a war-torn region 3 years ago. It was hard, but it was worth it. Watching countless people who were fighting for world peace and justice regain their vitality in my hands, I truly felt that even if I died there, my life would have been worthwhile. Until one rescue mission, when I saved Zane Hawthorne, Ethan's twin brother. For the first time, I felt an overwhelming desire to live. I wanted to live with Zane, to protect world peace together, to hold hands and see the world together. But the fires of war did not spare Zane. Or perhaps the fires of war did not spare Ethan, who had suddenly shown up looking for him. To save his twin brother, who had a congenital heart condition, Zayn chose to sacrifice himself. He begged me to transplant his heart into Ethan. I would never forget the way Zayn knelt on one knee and kissed away my tears. He was so gentle and tender, yet the words he spoke were so cruel, so absolute. Lee, listen to me. He's my brother. Only my heart can save him, do you understand? I was a mess of tears, shaking my head frantically. Can't we just not save him? As long as you live, I can give up my own beliefs. Even if it means watching a life slip away through my fingers. Zayn smiled, his eyes filled with a grim determination. We can't do that. Since we chose this path, saving people is our mission. But are their lives the only ones that matter? Isn't your life a life too? I couldn't do it. I couldn't transplant the heart of the man I loved with my own hands. But in the end, I gave in. Bearing an immense weight of pressure and pain, amidst the smoke of gunpowder, I carved out Zayn's heart and transplanted it into Ethan. The eyes of a lover are the eighth ocean. The final reluctance and longing in Zayn's eyes were for me. I was in agony. Zayn, what? Ethan, who had just entered the room, paused, frowning at the sight of my nightmare. No, I jolted awake, my back drenched in sweat and my face streaked with tears. I was still shaken. But when I saw Ethan beside me, my heart trembled and I pulled him into a hug. Don't leave me, please. Emotion surged in my eyes and my tears soaked Ethan's shirt. Ethan was stunned for a moment. On a strange impulse, he raised his hand, wanting to hold the woman in his arms tighter. But when his fingers touched my damp hair, he was inexplicably annoyed and pushed me away. I stared at Ethan, my eyes blurry with tears and utterly bewildered, like a lost child. Ethan was agitated, but his voice was uncharacteristically gentle. Are you trying to catch a cold tomorrow, not drying your hair? He sighed, picked up the hairdryer from the table, and began to dry my hair. My consciousness slowly returned, and my gaze became clear and distinct. I distantly took the hairdryer from his hand and said politely, "Thank you, I can do it myself." Ethan froze, realizing what he had been doing. Flustered, he turned to leave. Remember the first condition you promised me. For 1 month, he would be good only to me. In other words, no seeing Jasmine. Ethan looked frustrated. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight, he said coldly. Chapter 6. After signing the 3-condition contract with Ethan, I started sleeping in every day. It was Ethan's turn to wake up early and make me breakfast. Ethan had a strong sense of commitment to our deal. When he said he'd be good to me, he truly played the part of the perfect domestic partner. Sometimes, Ethan was so good that I thought he deserved an Oscar for his performance. Half a month went by. Aside from being good to me, Ethan did nothing else. Life was so peaceful that I couldn't help but ask him, "Why haven't you posted the clarification statement yet?" I had no desire to return to my old battlefield with a tarnished reputation. If I was going to leave, I wanted to leave with a clean slate, but Ethan always changed the subject. When he couldn't, he would just say dismissively, "Just wait a little longer." I fell silent. I knew why he was unwilling to post it. It was all for his old flame, Jasmine. After all, Jasmine was the one who had started the rumors and paid for the online trolls to slander me as a groupie. Because Ethan had remained silent, the public had accepted it as truth. To suddenly stand up and say I was innocent would be a slap in Jasmine's face. It would also put the Hawthorne group in an awkward position, making them a target of public criticism. My temper grew worse and worse, but Ethan took it all in stride. An outsider would have thought we were a sweet couple, not two people bound by a contract of convenience. But while Ethan could wait out the month, Jasmine couldn't. Suddenly, scandalous rumors about Jasmine began to spread online. I knew at a glance it was a publicity stunt. Creating a fake romance with the male lead of her new show for marketing purposes, it was an old trick I'd seen 1,000,000 times. But Ethan started to become distracted. He was less patient with me, even taking his phone into the shower to keep up with Jasmine's latest updates. It wasn't until one night when Ethan forgot to log out of his messaging app on his laptop. Before showering that I discovered he and Jasmine were even more shameless than I had imagined. "Ethan, my love, I don't want to stay in a hotel tonight. Can I come to your place?" Ethan's reply was almost instantaneous. "Only if you promise to stop the fake romance with that pretty boy." "Well, that depends on how you perform tonight, my love." There were many more explicit messages, but I stopped reading. Half an hour later, Ethan brought me a glass of warm milk as usual. I stared at the drugged milk, not taking it. My mind raced with images of the past half-month. Countless times after I drank the milk and fell into a deep sleep, Ethan would rush off to Jasmine's tender embrace. Then he would return and slip into bed with me just before I woke up. How could he be such a good actor? The thought of it was sickening. What I had thought was him finally changing his ways was just a long dream. "I don't want to drink milk tonight," I said, looking him straight in the eye. Ethan's reaction was extreme. "No," then he softened his tone, coaxing me. "You're not well. You need to drink more milk to boost your immune system. Be good." I lowered my gaze, hiding the desolation and self-mockery in my eyes. The ticking of the grandfather clock echoed in the silent room. 10 o'clock. Jasmine was already waiting at the door, but I still made one last, desperate attempt. "Just for one night, can't you stay?" Chapter 7. Nervousness, anticipation, humility, a pile of emotions welled up inside me. In the silent room, only the faint whisper of my heart's sigh and plea remained. "Zane, will your heart still soften for me?" Ethan coldly averted his gaze. There was a hint of guilt in his eyes, but his voice was still firm. "Not even for one night you have to drink this milk." Beep. The moment my hope was shattered, I thought I could hear the sound of my heart breaking. My throat was tight with unshed tears. With great difficulty, I answered, "Fine." Like a gambler who had lost everything, I took the glass of milk and drank every last drop. Ethan patted my head, satisfied. He was about to say something else, but I calmly moved away. "I'm tired, I'm going to bed." After checking on me a few times, Ethan was sure I was fast asleep. He tiptoed out of bed to let Jasmine in. Ethan had intended to stay in the living room, but the moment Jasmine entered, she expertly hooked her arm around his and led him to the master bedroom. She was going to tempt him into doing the most shameless thing, right in front of me. "Are you crazy?" Ethan's voice was strained, but his hands didn't stop moving. His body was all too honest. Jasmine sneered. "What are you afraid of? Didn't she take a sleeping pill?" "But," Jasmine covered his mouth, a wanton smile in her eyes. "No buts. Enjoy me, Ethan, my love." The heavy thuds and suppressed gasps grew bolder, pressing down on my heart like a 1,000-pound stone. It was so heavy I could barely breathe. The three-way affair didn't end until my tears had soaked the pillow. As the first rays of dawn broke, Ethan returned. He carefully wrapped his arms around me from behind, pretending nothing had happened. But he suddenly noticed a pool of blood on the bed. Terrified, he quickly woke me. I woke from another nightmare, my eyes red. But I just suppressed the turmoil in my heart and discreetly covered the wound on my thigh. "I got my period," I said calmly. "I'll wash the sheets when I get up." It wasn't my period. After drinking the drugged milk last night, I had desperately cut my thigh to stay awake, trying to drown out the drowsiness with pain. Ethan breathed a sigh of relief. "Okay, I'll go make you breakfast." "Ethan," I called out to him, "do you remember what you promised me?" Ethan didn't react for a moment. "What?" "If you break our contract, I will sell my half of the shares to your competitor and ruin you. So please, don't let me down." My eyes were as clear as a tranquil pool, and Ethan couldn't bear to look at them any longer. He just mumbled an "okay" and hurried away. My body, which had been tense for so long, finally went limp, and hot tears fell. Even I couldn't tell who I was crying for. Was it for Ethan? Or for the body that looked so much like him? Or perhaps for the heart that beat within that shell? After treating the wound on my thigh in the bathroom, I found several used condoms in the trash. It was clearly Jasmine's doing, behind Ethan's back. I silently collected the condoms and placed them in a small box. Then I went downstairs and ate breakfast with Ethan as if nothing had happened. Ethan's eyes, however, were glued to his phone. I glanced over. It was a statement debunking the rumors about Jasmine and a popular young actor. Ethan looked pleased and happy. He even, for the first time ever, offered to take me to the office with him. I didn't refuse. Dressed simply, I left with him. In the underground parking garage, Ethan took a call and gestured for me to go up to his office first. I didn't think much of it and entered the building, but I was stopped at the elevator by the receptionist. "Stop, you need an appointment to go up to the chairman's office on the 10th floor. Do you have one?" I looked steadily at the young, pretty receptionist before me. I recognized her. She was one of Jasmine's little sycophants. No wonder she had the guts to stop me. I asked if you have an appointment. "Say something, are you mute?" The triumphant smile in the junior receptionist's eyes was all too obvious. She even tried to push me. I just took a silent step back, avoiding physical contact. No, Ethan Hawthorne told me to come up. My words were met with a wave of laughter and cold, amused stares from the onlookers. That's hilarious. Everyone knows Mr. Hawthorne's true love is Jasmine. Who do you think you are? Lee Vance, you're just a D-list groupie. What right do you have to get close to Mr. Hawthorne? A wench like you needs to be taught a lesson. As she spoke, the junior receptionist raised her hand to slap me. Slap, stop, Chapter 8. Ethan arrived late, but he wasn't able to stop it. My hand had already landed squarely on the junior receptionist's face. The force of the slap was so great that it knocked out one of her teeth. I'll kill you, the junior receptionist lunged forward recklessly. But I sent her to the ground with a shoulder throw. The loud thud made everyone present cringe. The sound of an ambulance siren wailed in the distance. I turned to look at Ethan. Were you trying to stop me or her? Ethan was completely stunned. He had never seen this violent, bloody side of me. It was as if fragmented memories were flashing through his mind. But he couldn't grasp any of them. Seeing Ethan remain silent, I looked down at the junior receptionist. If you want to call the police, I can do it for you right now. But I'll also sue you for assault. At worst, we'll see if the net breaks when the fish dies. Without another glance at Ethan, I turned and walked away. I had already seen the answer in his eyes. Ethan wasn't concerned about whether I got hit. He was concerned that I, as his girlfriend, had started a fight in public. I had embarrassed him. I smiled, a genuine smile for the first time in 3 years. The violent, merciless person from just now that was the real me. That was how Lee Vance, the woman who walked the gray areas of war zones, was supposed to be. It felt so much better to accept who I really was. Chapter 9. The incident where I beat up the junior receptionist was exaggerated and posted online by someone, quickly drawing another wave of condemnation. And Ethan still refused to clarify a single thing for me. In fact, after our argument that night, he completely ignored our contract. He openly appeared with Jasmine at various public events, letting the outside world speculate whether I was about to be cast aside. With only 1 day left before my records were erased, Ethan still hadn't come home. But 3 meals a day were delivered to the house on time, ensuring I was fed. I couldn't understand how Ethan could be so contradictory. On one hand, he was angry with me and refused to come home, constantly appearing with Jasmine and making everyone think they were about to get married. On the other hand, he was taking care of my daily meals and, strangely, even sent me a gift on my birthday. It was a ring I had admired for a long time, but I didn't admire it anymore. I gently caressed the sparkling ring. It was expensive and beautiful, but it was also demeaning. It was from the new jewelry brand Jasmine was endorsing. Was this a provocation? Before I could think further, I received a call from Ethan, but it was Jasmine who answered. Lee, Ethan is going to kill someone, you have to come quickly. Then she hung up. Logic told me I shouldn't go, but impulse was stronger. The moment I stepped out the door, a hand clamped over my mouth and nose and I passed out. When I woke up, my hands and feet were tied tightly. Behind me was a cliff. Beside me was Jasmine, also tied up, and several menacing thugs. What do you want? Lee, Ethan has treated you so badly. Why won't you just let go? Who do you think he'll choose between the two of us? Just as she finished speaking, Ethan rushed to the scene. Let them go. I'll give you however much money you want, Ethan said in a low voice. The leader of the thugs laughed contemptuously. Ethan Hawthorne, we don't want money. We just want to vent our anger. If it weren't for you, our boss's company wouldn't have gone bankrupt, so many of our brothers wouldn't be out of a job. Choose one of these 2 women. The other one is ours, ha ha ha. Their lewd laughter echoed off the cliffs, chilling everyone to the bone. Jasmine instantly switched into her damsel in distress role, crying pitifully. Ethan, my love, I'm so scared, save me. But I was calmly assessing the situation below the cliff, looking for an escape route. Jasmine's crying was getting on Ethan's nerves, but his gaze unexpectedly fell on me. Why isn't she begging me? Hawthorne, are you going to choose or not? If you don't, we'll throw them both off, Jasmine's voice broke with fear. She cried and begged Ethan to save her, but one of the thugs, annoyed, stuffed a gag in her mouth. This woman won't stop crying. Don't you have anything to say? The thug asked, pointing at me. I slowly raised my eyes to look at the wavering Ethan and said with utmost seriousness, "Ethan Hawthorne, let's never see each other again." Ethan's eyelid twitched. A bad feeling rose in his heart. "Lee," the next second I leaped off the bottomless cliff. Chapter 9. Continuation from original numbering. The moment I plunged off the cliff, Ethan shot forward like an arrow released from a bow. But he could only watch helplessly as I fell like a moth to a flame, to be dashed to pieces. The wail of police sirens suddenly filled the air. Ethan felt as if 1,000 arrows had pierced his heart, and the pain was so intense that he fainted. When he woke up, the first person he saw was Jasmine. "Where's Lee?" Ethan asked, his breath coming in short gasps. Jasmine wiped away her tears. "Lee, I'm afraid she's gone for good." "What do you mean, gone for good?" "I'm asking you, where is Lee?" Ethan's eyes were red, his heart pounding with anxiety. The rescue team searched for 3 days and nights and couldn't even find a body. "Everyone is saying Lee is dead," Jasmine sobbed, a hint of triumph hidden in her eyes. Ethan's head throbbed. Countless memory fragments flashed through his mind. In everyone he saw Lee's smile amidst the ruins. It seemed he had known Lee a long time ago. Ethan struggled to get out of bed, muttering, "How could they not find her? How could they not find a whole person like Lee?" "I have to find her," Ethan staggered out, but Jasmine wrapped her arms around him from behind. "Ethan, my love, don't go. She's dead. It's useless, even if you go." "Get off me." Ethan completely lost his senses. He drove recklessly to the base of the cliff. He walked barefoot among the sharp rocks, his feet bleeding. He didn't understand why he was searching for a woman he had hated for so long, but a voice in his heart kept urging him on. Go find Lee. He searched from dusk till dawn, but found nothing. When Jasmine found him, Ethan was staring blankly into space, completely lost. "Ethan, my love," Jasmine threw her arms around him. "You've always hated Lee, haven't you? Why are you going to such lengths for her?" In his daze, Ethan frowned, unable to think of a reason other than a flimsy excuse. "That woman, she promised to transfer the shares to me." "Yes, that must be it. I have to find Lee and make her give me the shares." Jasmine couldn't stop him. She could only watch as Ethan drove away. Ethan went to his company. But before he could even enter, angry netizens started throwing eggs and rotten vegetables at him. "Scumbag, I can't believe we thought you were some devoted diamond bachelor. You're not worthy of our Lee." "Exactly, we thought you were just using Jasmine for publicity, and that you were good to our Lee behind the scenes. I can't believe you're this kind of person." "Bastard, you let our Lee be slandered for so many years, bastard." The insults grew louder, but the only word Ethan heard was Lee. He grabbed a netizen by the collar. "What happened to Lee?" Before the person could answer, a video of Lee started playing on a loop on the giant screen of the department store across the street. The video began with the first half of the month after he and Lee had made their agreement. Ethan was incredibly good to her, just like a normal couple. Watching it, Ethan was filled with mixed emotions. "Lee!" The screen suddenly went black. The jarring, sharp sounds of lovemaking filled the air. It was the video of him and Jasmine in the master bedroom that night. "No!" Ethan was terrified, his eyes wide with disbelief. The Lee who had loved him so much would actually expose his affair with Jasmine to the public. Was this still Lee? Ethan suddenly remembered her words. She was really willing to ruin him. A downpour started suddenly. The people without umbrellas scattered, but Ethan remained, kneeling in the rain. He stared at Lee's face on the screen, at her calm, lifeless eyes. "Ethan Hawthorne, by the time you see this video, I'll be gone. For the past 1,100 days, I was grateful that you gave me some solace, even if you weren't him. But that doesn't give you the right to hurt me without limit. I told you, don't let me down. Those who betray a true heart deserve to swallow 1,000 needles. Ethan Hawthorne, let's break up. I hope you like this farewell gift." The Lee in the video smiled with finality. A smile that filled Ethan with dread. Chapter 10. Frantic, Ethan rushed home, trying to find any trace of Lee. But he found the house half empty. All of Lee's belongings were gone, and all the couple's items they shared, couple's slippers, couple's toothbrushes, couple's photos, Lee's half was gone from all of them. On the table was a conspicuous box. Inside were only a few used condoms, a share transfer agreement, and a phone. Ethan's hands trembled as he tried to unlock the phone. He succeeded on the first try. The password was his birthday. The phone's gallery was filled with videos of him and Jasmine and screenshots of countless hateful comments from netizens. Lee had always acted nonchalant, as if she didn't care. He had really thought she was so jaded that nothing bothered her. Only now did he realize that she had cared all along. She cared so much that she had been planning her revenge from the very beginning to ruin him completely. Yet, because of some lingering affection, the share transfer agreement was still made out in his name. Clutching the box, Ethan collapsed to the floor and sobbed. Don't they say only the good die young? Why did you have to die? Lee. A week passed with no news of Lee. Ethan tried to find the person who had broadcast the video at the department store, but was told that Lee had scheduled the broadcast long in advance. He refused to give up and went to the police department to report her as a missing person, hoping they would send out a search party. But he was impatiently shooed away by an officer. Your ex-girlfriend applied to have her records erased a month ago. It's against regulations to search for her now. You men are all the same. You don't cherish what you have until it's gone. What were you doing before? Ethan's face flushed red and white. A wave of sorrow washed over him. His phone suddenly vibrated, pulling him from his daze. Is this Mr. Ethan Hawthorne? The plot Miss Lee Vance purchased from us is about to expire. We can't reach her. Would you be able to come and see if it needs to be renewed? Ethan's eyes were blank. What plot? The person on the other end was silent for a moment, as if unsure whether to say more. Finally, they said, it's the tombstone for Miss Vance's beloved. Chapter 11. Far from the turmoil back home, Lee had safely arrived at her destination. Before jumping off the cliff, she had already assessed the situation below. She had guessed there would be a cave halfway down, or at least some large branches to break her fall. At most, she would suffer some scrapes, but it wouldn't be fatal, so she had jumped without hesitation. It was better for everyone to think she was dead. It saved her the trouble of saying goodbye. Lee breathed in the air, thick with the smell of gunpowder, her nerves constantly on edge. The next second, a bullet whizzed past her shoulder. A dark figure lunged at her with lightning speed, and she was forced to fight back. After just a few moves, Lee was at a disadvantage and fell to the ground. Stop! The man's fist froze right in front of her face. Lucian, is this how you welcome an old comrade? Lee asked, a little exasperated. Lucian Cross lowered his hand, a playful smile on his face. Just wanted to see if you've gotten rusty these past few years. I didn't expect you to go back home, fall in love, and become so weak. Tusk, Lucian's words were sharp, but he instinctively took her suitcase. My skills are pretty good for the medical support team. Don't judge me by your frontline standards, Lee said, following him into an alley. On the battlefield, the enemy doesn't care if you're frontline or medical support. Once you're in their hands, there's only one way out: death. Lucian led Lee through a series of winding alleys and across a field of ruins before they reached their camp. It was remote and well hidden. The enemy was unlikely to find them here. The overwhelming smell of blood hit her, and Lee's brow furrowed almost imperceptibly. Watching the endless stream of wounded and dead being carried in and out, she was filled with a sense of sorrow. She had saved countless lives here years ago, and she had also watched countless lives slip away in her hands. Of the first medical team she had come with, almost none had met a good end. Even she, the luckiest of them all, had been sent back home covered in injuries. She had fought tooth and nail with death to survive. I saw some of the news from back home. Ethan Hawthorne is a real piece of work. If he hadn't recklessly wandered into a war zone back then, Zane wouldn't have died, and what does he do? He goes back home, forgets everything, and continues to live as the golden boy. And he treated you like that. He's the worst of the worst. Lucian was furious. He couldn't describe how angry he had been when he saw the news about Ethan's scandals online. He had wanted to fly back immediately and get justice for Lee. Their comrades had been kind enough not to tell Ethan the truth, but he couldn't stand it. Don't be angry. It's not good for your health, Lee said calmly, comforting him instead. Lucian couldn't help but ask, he did so many terrible things to you. Aren't you even a little bit angry? Lee was silent for a long time, then sighed. Lucian, I don't love him. I love Zane. I was with him only because he has Zane's heart. That's all, so whatever he does, I only feel sad for Zane's heart, not for him. Lee's gaze was calm, as if she were telling a story that had nothing to do with her. But Lucian saw a reflection of Zane in her eyes. Resolute, brave, clear about love and hate, All the noble and beautiful words in the world could be used to describe her. But at the same time, Lee had her own unique charm. Like before she met Zayn, she had been selfish, cold, and unromantic, but that was all her. Seeing Lucien remain silent, Lee gave him a task. "Give me physical training and teach me how to fight." Lucien was stunned for a moment. "You?" She wants to go to the front lines. Before he could finish, he was silenced by the look in her eyes. After a long pause, he said, "Okay." Chapter 12. For the next half-month, Lee raced against time. She wished she could learn every possible way to kill the enemy overnight. Just as Zayn once said, "This is our mission." Lucien was out from dawn till dusk, occasionally bringing back refugees to shelter. But one long night, he dragged himself back, covered in wounds and on the verge of death. "Lucien," Lee rushed to catch him as he collapsed into her arms, unconscious. His hands were clamped tightly over a wound in his abdomen, but blood was still seeping out. Lee's face was grim, but she calmly treated his wounds. When she pulled out the bullet, the pain jolted Lucien awake. "Hang in there," Lee said succinctly. Lucien forced a weak smile. "You won't even give me anesthesia. You're as stingy as ever." "Shut up," Lee snapped, but her hands never stopped moving. She then explained, "Anesthetics are scarce. Your wound isn't serious enough to need it. It's better to save it for the refugees and children." Lee wasn't lying. Medical resources in war-torn areas were incredibly scarce. Not just anesthetics, but all kinds of medicines and equipment were in short supply. So for any non-fatal injuries, especially for members of their own team, they usually just had to tough it out. It was all to save the limited medical resources for where they were needed most. For the refugees who had no medical training. After treating Lucien's wound, Lee turned to check on the beautiful child he had risked his life to bring back. No injuries. Lucien had protected him well. The child blinked his dark, wide eyes at her, his expression filled with a fear and confusion that tugged at her heart. It was like the popular saying online, "Children in war-torn areas have no homes. Want some candy?" Lee softened her expression and pulled a piece of candy from her pocket. The child didn't refuse or accept, just stared at the candy. "What's your name?" Lee asked as she unwrapped it for him. The child hesitated for a few seconds. Tan. Lee popped the candy into his mouth and smiled. "Then I'll call you Tanner from now on, okay?" Tanner nodded, his expression submissive, like a tame pet. He had been frightened by the war. After settling Tanner in, Lee gave Lucien a full checkup. "What are you doing? Men and women should keep their distance," Lucien exclaimed. Lee rolled her eyes and ignored his protests, pulling him over and starting to take off his clothes. "In the eyes of a doctor, there is no gender. Believe me, right now, you're just a piece of meat to me. A completely unappealing piece of meat." "Lucien, were you always this blunt when you were in the entertainment industry back home? Such a sharp tongue?" Lee laughed. "How else do you think I became so infamous?" Lucien. He had nothing to say. With a mouth like hers, the only person she could say something nice to was probably Zayn. The atmosphere was silent for a while. Just as Lee finished checking him and was about to leave, Lucien called out to her. "How long are you planning to stay this time?" Lee was silent for a moment. "I'm not planning on going back." With a resolve to die, she was heading to the front lines. Until the moment her life ended, her faith would never be extinguished. Chapter 13. After Lee publicly released the video, Ethan and Jasmine became public enemy number one. The pressure of public opinion ruined Ethan's reputation, and the Hawthorne Group's stock plummeted. Jasmine was blacklisted by the industry, and her upcoming movie was pulled from release. In contrast, the public's attitude towards Lee took a complete 180. Some extreme netizens even dug up the entire family histories of all three. The result was a lot of dirt on Jasmine. After dumping the then penniless Ethan, Jasmine had gone abroad to make a name for herself in the entertainment industry. But she was outmatched and completely crushed. Forget getting rich, she could barely make ends meet. So Jasmine shed her innocent ingenue persona and reverted to her true nature as a socialite, frequenting high-end clubs and parties. She finally landed a billionaire old enough to be her grandfather and transformed into an A-list actress. Coincidentally, the billionaire died not long after. Jasmine just had to issue a few press releases to whitewash her image, and she was back to being the pure and innocent sweetheart in the public eye. As for Lee, the more they dug, the more popular she became. Generations of her ancestors were decorated veterans, and she herself was a member of a peacekeeping and rescue team. The twist was almost too dramatic to be true. Even casual observers couldn't help but remark, the dead are always the victors. Jasmine was so harassed that she didn't dare leave her house for half a month, giving Ethan some peace and quiet. But he spent his days either at bars or at home, clutching a photo of Lee and drinking himself into a stupor. It wasn't until the cemetery staff contacted him that Ethan realized the call he'd received wasn't a scam. Lee had really bought a tombstone for her beloved. Ethan stared at the words, "Beloved Zane Hawthorne," on the tombstone for a long time, his hands clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Zane? Mr. Zane Hawthorne was your brother, and Miss Lee Vance's beloved." His assistant carefully explained the results of his investigation. 3 years ago, you went to a war-torn region to find your brother, but you were injured in an explosion. To save you, your brother donated his heart. Miss Vance was in love with Zane at the time, and she was the one who performed the heart transplant surgery. She probably stayed by your side because of Zane's heart. The assistant's hesitant voice hung in the chilly night air, sending a shiver down Ethan's spine. Ethan grabbed his assistant and yelled, "Then why don't I remember any of this? Why don't I remember I had a brother? Why did I forget Lee? This has to be fake, right?" Ethan's eyes were bloodshot, filled with confusion. The assistant said nothing, just lowered his head, and Ethan understood everything. He stared, devastated, at the grave that had only words, no picture. He had a congenital heart condition, and his brother had saved him with his own heart. But his family, especially his mother, had hidden it from him, even using hypnosis to erase the memory so he wouldn't be sad. But the truth only made him sadder. "You can go," Ethan said, slumping down in front of the grave. The assistant fled immediately. No one wanted to be in a cemetery at night. It was too creepy. Ethan cried in front of the grave for a long time, his laughter filled with self-loathing. "No wonder she cared so much about my heart. It was yours all along. She never loved me. She always loved you. You all knew, didn't you? You were all keeping it from me. I was supposed to hate her, so why does it hurt so much now that she's gone?" A sharp pain shot through his chest, and Ethan couldn't tell if it was his own pain or Zane's. Chapter 14. When Jasmine found Ethan, he was dead drunk. Terrifyingly, the tombstone was knocked over. She couldn't imagine how enraged Ethan must have been to kick over a dead man's grave. "Ethan, my love, please don't be like this. Come home with me, let's go home." Get lost, though drunk, the strong scent of Jasmine's perfume made Ethan nauseous. He actually threw up on Zane's grave. Then he pushed Jasmine away and staggered forward, collapsing after just a few steps. When he woke up, he was in the hospital. "Ethan, my love, you're awake. The doctor said you drank so much you had gastric bleeding. They pumped your stomach last night, but you're fine now. But I was so worried about you, Ethan, my love." Jasmine tried to nestle against him, but Ethan coldly pushed her away. "Don't ever show your face in front of me again," he said flatly. Jasmine's eyes widened in disbelief. "What do you mean? Are you leaving me? Didn't you say you would marry me?" "Lee is dead now. There's no one to stop us from being together. Ethan, my love, let's get married." At the mention of Lee, Ethan finally looked at her, his clear eyes unreadable. It was impossible to tell what he was thinking. After a long moment, he asked pointedly, "They haven't found Lee's body yet. How can you be so sure she's dead?" Jasmine froze for a second, then quickly came up with an excuse. "How could anyone survive a fall from such a high cliff?" "Ethan, my love, you don't suspect I had something to do with it, do you?" The fog in Ethan's eyes suddenly cleared. He smiled faintly. "No, I haven't been myself lately. Don't take what I said to heart." The corners of Ethan's mouth lifted, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. He felt more and more suspicious. After Jasmine left, he had his assistant investigate the connection between her and the kidnappers. Also, look into all those rumors about what Jasmine was doing abroad. Ethan's face was dark. A terrible suspicion was forming in his mind. Chapter 15. Far away, Lee was on a mission, walking the line between life and death. "So, not a bad feeling, is it?" Lucian jogged up beside her. Lee kept her eyes fixed ahead, her knuckles white as she gripped her rifle. "It's not great. If I had a choice, I'd wish no one in the world ever had to experience this." A smile flickered in Lucian's eyes. He suddenly grabbed her hand, which was holding the gun, and aimed it at a spot in the distance. With a loud bang, one of the enemy's strongholds was destroyed. Even though she had been in situations like this before, being back in the thick of it still made her heart tremble. Let's go time to celebrate. As soon as Lee and Lucien returned to camp, they saw Tanner squatting alone in a corner. His face was pale with fear, a clear sign of long-term trauma from the war. Tanner. Lee went over and helped him up. After a few questions that went unanswered, she gave up and let Lucien take him. There were countless children with trauma-induced mutism here. That night, they finally had some free time, and Lucien and Lee sat down for a rare chat. "So, tell me about your love life back home," Lucien said with a grin. Lee thought of Ethan and sneered. "There's nothing to tell. He used me as a substitute, and I used him as one. We were both scumbags." Lucien looked at her, amused. "All right, let's talk about something else then. I heard that after you faked your death and left the country, your old circle was in an uproar. Your few loyal fans even pooled their money to give you a grand funeral. Can you really bear to let them be kept in the dark?" Lee looked up at the vast night sky. Honestly, no, she couldn't, but she had to. When she had been so harassed online that she developed anxiety and depression, it was her loyal fans who had comforted her in their group chat. They had defended her and found resources for her. Sometimes she felt they weren't just fans, but mothers who worried about her every move. She was grateful. Lee toyed with her phone for a long time before making a decision. She laughed self-deprecatingly. "I guess I owe them a proper goodbye." Lee logged into her social media account, went to her fan group, and typed out a message. This way, there are no regrets, right? Meanwhile, back home, social media was exploding. Lee, the person everyone thought was dead, had suddenly come back online. She dominated the trending topics, nearly crashing the system. Some fans even posted screenshots of the farewell message she sent in the group. It was short but powerful. "Hello everyone, this is Lee Vance. I'm not dead. In fact, I'm safe, and I'm in a place I've wanted to be for a long time, so please don't worry about me. I probably won't be seeing you all again, so I wish all of you, whom I've never met, peace, joy, and good health. Our paths have crossed for a time, and that in itself is a blessing." To our acquaintance, Lee's farewell sparked a nationwide debate. The comments were polarized. Didn't Lee die? Why did she suddenly come back from the dead? Can someone explain if this is really her? If it is her, that's so irresponsible she wasn't dead, but she used up so many public resources. Is she crazy? Am I the only one who noticed her IP address? Isn't that a war-torn region? Is she really going back to her old job? Ethan scrolled through the trending topics and comments, his fingers trembling. "Lee, is that you? You're alive, right?" Hot tears fell onto his phone screen, blurring his vision. Ethan could hardly see. It felt like a dream. For the past few months, he had played the part of a competent CEO during the day, dealing with all sorts of people. He also had to put on a show with Jasmine. At night, he would come home and drink until he passed out, ending up in the hospital several times to have his stomach pumped, but he never learned his lesson. In just 2 months, Ethan had lost a lot of weight and looked disheveled. And now, he was suddenly told that Lee was still alive. Ethan's feelings were complicated, but the overwhelming emotion was elation. Looking at the IP address that showed a war-torn region, he excitedly called his assistant. "Book me a ticket, I'm going to find Lee right now." The assistant hesitated for a few seconds. "Mr. Hawthorne, perhaps you should look at this file first." Ethan suppressed his frantic anxiety and read through the file. His face grew as dark as a storm cloud. Chapter 16. Jasmine, Ethan's voice was filled with grinding hatred. His assistant asked cautiously, "Mr. Hawthorne, should I still book the flight?" "Not for now." Ethan's eyes were dark. "Next week is Jasmine's birthday. I'm going to give her a gift she'll never forget." There was a price to pay for playing him for a fool. That night, Ethan brought Jasmine home and played the part of the gentle boyfriend. "Ethan, my love, what's gotten into you?" Faced with Ethan's sudden warmth, Jasmine was taken aback. After all, for the past half-month, Ethan had been giving her the cold shoulder. She had even considered finding a new sugar daddy. But now that Ethan had come around, Jasmine was feeling a little smug. Ethan's face was expressionless. He just handed her a glass of milk. "Nothing, I just had a change of heart. Your birthday is in a few days. Is there anything you particularly want?" Ethan smoothly changed the subject and listened to Jasmine's excited voice. "Ethan, my love, you've finally come to your senses. I don't want anything. I just want to be by your side forever. I just don't know if you're willing, my love." An unnatural blush crept up Jasmine's face. To Ethan, it was utterly disgusting. The brighter her smile, the more furious he became. Especially when he thought of all the terrible things Jasmine had done to Lee behind his back, he wanted to tear her to pieces on the spot. Seeing Ethan's lack of reaction, Jasmine took his hand and guided it downwards, her expression flirtatious. "Ethan, my love, how about I give you a child?" Aroused, Ethan grunted, a flicker of desire in his eyes. After a sleepless night, Jasmine moved into Ethan's house as expected. Ethan even publicly invited all the city's elites to her birthday party next week, a clear sign to the public that they were about to get married. A wave of online trolls suddenly appeared, praising the beautiful love story of Ethan and Jasmine. At the same time, they attacked Lee for her dramatic antics. "Mr. Hawthorne, should we stop Miss Miller from buying online trolls?" the assistant asked. Ethan waved his hand, his voice cold and devoid of emotion. "No need. The higher you climb, the harder you fall." He was looking forward to seeing the look on Jasmine's face at her birthday party next week. "What's with that look?" Lucien asked, amused, looking at Lee. He tried to lift his hand to wipe away her tears, but it fell limply to his side. "Don't cry, I'm not dead yet, cough, cough," he said weakly. Lee stared at Lucien's necrotic, amputated arm, her hands trembling as she bandaged the stump. Lucien wanted to say more, but Lee cut him off. "Shut up, it was the same last time. Last time, I was the one who transplanted his heart. This time, I was the one who had to cut off your arm. It had been an emergency. If Lee hadn't amputated his arm, Lucien wouldn't have made it back to camp. But even though he made it back, the arm was a lost cause." After treating Lucien's wound, Lee couldn't sleep. "Do you regret coming here?" Lucien's face was ashen. He smiled faintly. "Of course I regret it, who wouldn't? But what other choice is there? I can't just desert, can I?" There was a bright light in Lucien's eyes. Lee didn't believe for a second that he regretted it. "Have you ever regretted it?" "No," Lee's answer was firm. Even when Zane died, she never regretted coming here. Chapter 17. Time flew by, and Jasmine's birthday party was just around the corner. "Ethan, my love, do you think this dress looks good on me for tomorrow?" Jasmine asked shyly, holding up the skirt. Ethan, standing behind her, was expressionless. His mind was on how beautiful Lee would look in that dress. He answered subconsciously, "It's beautiful." Jasmine didn't notice his distraction. She excitedly threw her arms around him, wanting to stick to him like glue. "Ethan, my love, I have some good news for you. You'll find out tomorrow." On the vanity table not far away was Jasmine's pregnancy test result. She was 2 weeks pregnant. It would be her and Ethan's first child. Everyone around her had been hinting that Ethan would propose to her at her birthday party. She truly believed it. So when the doctor asked if she wanted to terminate the pregnancy or keep it, she didn't hesitate to keep the child. Getting pregnant before marriage was disgraceful, both then and now. But she was confident that Ethan wouldn't let her down. The next day, Jasmine woke up early to get ready. The city's elite guests arrived one after another, and the banquet hall was buzzing with excitement. Everyone was congratulating Jasmine. "Miss Miller, you're so young and successful, it looks like we'll be calling you Mrs. Hawthorne soon." "Exactly, only Miss Miller is worthy of our Mr. Hawthorne." "That Lee person, who does she think she is?" "Miss Miller, don't forget us when you make it big." The flattery made Jasmine blush, and her confidence grew. But she still feigned modesty. "What are you talking about? Nothing is set in stone," yet her words were met with even more shameless flattery. The big screen behind her played a slideshow of Jasmine's achievements in the entertainment industry, from her debut as an innocent ingenue to winning Best Actress and becoming a leading lady. Every step of her journey seemed so lucky that everyone looked at her with envy and jealousy. Even Jasmine's eyes welled up with tears. The 10-minute video ended, replaced by a single line on the black screen. "Behind success, is it luck or hard work?" The crowd could only imagine the cliché story that would follow. It would undoubtedly praise Jasmine's hard work, making them see her in a new light. It was an old trick, but it still worked. The moment the hard work montage began, the room erupted in applause. Just as Jasmine was about to bow in thanks, Ethan slowly descended the stairs. The screen behind him now showed a series of Jasmine's greatest hits. Both at home and abroad, Jasmine was a master socialite, but her plain face was rather unappetizing. Only old perverts would fall for her. Jasmine stared at the screen in disbelief, a wave of terror washing over her. No, this isn't real. Don't look, these are AI-generated videos. Someone is trying to frame me to humiliate me today. Ethan, my love, help me, someone is trying to hurt me. Jasmine ran helplessly to Ethan's side, frantically explaining that the person in the video wasn't her. But the video continued to play, and a swarm of reporters rushed in, snapping photos. Jasmine hid behind Ethan in fear, but he threw her to the ground. Don't touch me, you're disgusting. Hatred burned in Ethan's eyes, but the thrill of revenge made him laugh maniacally. Jasmine now understood that today's birthday party was just a trap. She sobbed uncontrollably. Why are you doing this to me? Ethan, didn't you love me the most? You said you would marry me. Does none of that count anymore? She didn't understand why Ethan had changed so drastically, why he had thrown her to the dogs. He used to love her so much that he cheated on Lee with her. Ethan laughed like a madman. Love you, marry you? Jasmine, do you take me for a fool? I only slept with you to get back at you for dumping me when I was poor, and you thought I loved you. How pathetic can you be? If it weren't for you, Lee wouldn't have left me. You deserve to die, you deserve to die. Ethan threw a stack of photos in front of Jasmine. They were photos of her meeting with the kidnappers, along with screenshots of bank transfers, all evidence of her past schemes against Lee. Jasmine stared at the photos on the ground in disbelief. It was as if she were waking from a dream. So you knew all along? You deliberately set me up to ruin me, Ethan Hawthorne. You are so cruel. You call me pathetic, but are you any better? You didn't love Lee when she was here. You pushed her away, belittled her, and broke her heart. Now that she's gone, you regret it? Ethan Hawthorne, aren't you pathetic? She should have known. Ethan was a good-for-nothing, then and now. She never should have had any hope for him. Ethan looked down at her, his eyes like ice. You should be thinking about how you're going to explain all this to the police. The onlookers now understood what was happening. Their expressions changed from envy to schadenfreude. The young starlets who used to follow Jasmine around now distanced themselves, not wanting to be associated with her. Jasmine laughed hysterically. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, she played her last card. Ethan Hawthorne, I'm pregnant with your child. You've been drinking so much lately that you've developed a low sperm count. The child in my belly is your only heir. Can you bear to see it born without a father? As Jasmine looked at him with hopeful eyes, Ethan sneered. If you're pregnant, then get an abortion. You are not worthy to bear my child. In this world, only Lee is worthy of having my children. His assistant, understanding the cue, dismissed the crowd and had the security guards forcibly drag Jasmine to the hospital. Chapter 18. No, Ethan Hawthorne, you can't do this to me. It's your own flesh and blood. Her blood-curdling screams echoed through the obstetrics and gynecology ward. Jasmine bit one of the security guards and used all her strength to break free and run downstairs. This child could not die. If it died, she would have nothing. Jasmine gritted her teeth and hailed a cab to Ethan's aunt's house. She was carrying the last heir of the Hawthorne family. She refused to believe that Ethan's aunt would stand by and do nothing. You're saying Ethan has a low sperm count? Agnes Hawthorne, who was used to a life of luxury, frowned. Yes, Jasmine gritted her teeth and knelt before Agnes, pleading. Aunt Agnes, if you don't save me, the Hawthorne family line will truly end. Agnes slammed her hand on the table. Outrageous, the Hawthorne family is already small. What is Ethan thinking? Jasmine, get up. As long as I'm here, no one will dare to touch the child in your womb. Agnes helped her up and arranged for her to be settled in. Half an hour later, Ethan arrived. Slap. The force of the blow snapped Ethan's head to the side, and the taste of blood filled his mouth. Absurd, that's your own flesh and blood. How dare you talk about getting rid of it? Ethan, if your parents were still alive, you would have been the death of them. Ethan's eyes were dark and stubborn. His gaze fell on Jasmine, who was standing at the top of the stairs. Aunt Agnes, if it weren't for this wench, Lee wouldn't have left me, and now you're helping her? Agnes sneered. She was just a groupie. I don't care if she's dead, but Jasmine is different. She's carrying our Hawthorne family's child. I've already decided. Whether you want this child or not, you're having it. Ethan shot a hateful glare at Jasmine. The coldness in his eyes made her shiver. Watching Ethan turn and leave, Jasmine's heart filled with hatred. Why Why did Lee, even after leaving, still have such a hold on Ethan? Jasmine was resentful. She was resentful of forever living in Lee's shadow. But there was nothing she could do. That night, Ethan posted a clarification on social media. He stated that Lee had never been the groupie the public thought she was, and that she had never done anything against her conscience. But netizens were smarter now. They attacked Ethan and Jasmine with full force while maintaining a wait-and-see attitude towards Lee. Thousands of miles away, Lee saw it and couldn't help but sigh at the drama. It's really a dog-eat-dog world. Chapter 19. The doubts about you online are growing. Aren't you going to say something to defend yourself? Lucian asked, amused. Lee shook her head. The innocent don't need to defend themselves. I have nothing to say. Tusk. Lucian watched Lee focus on treating the wounded, his thoughts drifting back a few years. He and Zane had been friends who met through a fight. On a whim, they had come to this war-torn region to be do-gooders. They never expected to stay for so long, all for the day they could see the war end. Lee had come a year after them. When she first arrived, she was clueless and even accidentally wandered into the men's bathhouse. Everyone had laughed at her, saying she was desperate for a man, but she just said sorry without batting an eye and left. It was then that Lee had entered Zane's heart, and his heart too. The holidays are coming up. What are your plans? Lucian suddenly asked. Lee's hand, which was bandaging a wound, paused. No plans, you. I got a message from home. My mom is seriously ill. They want me to go back, Lucian said, his expression somber. You're leaving? When will you be back? Lee looked at him. She knew Lucian's relationship with his family was strained, and his mother had always played favorites. She wondered what his mother's true intentions were in calling him back. I probably won't be back for a while, Lucian sighed, then tentatively asked, Do you want to come back with me for the holidays? Lee thought for a moment, then politely declined. No, I'm needed here. Lucian smiled helplessly. Then why don't you ask if I need you? In the firelight, Lucian's eyes were bright. No one knew how fast his heart was beating. Nervousness, anticipation, helplessness, a mix of emotions washed over him, but Lee's face grew cold. Lucian, you're crossing a line. With that, she turned and left, giving him no chance to explain. On New Year's Eve, Lucian returned to his home country. He waited at the airport for a long time, but Lee never came. In the end, he left alone and dejected. In a corner he didn't notice, Lee watched him leave. Lucian, go back to the world where you belong. But Lucian's world wasn't much better. The moment he got off the plane, he saw his family, whom he hadn't seen in years. They were less like family and more like leeches, sucking him dry. His father sped him to the hospital, but they didn't make it in time to see his mother one last time. At the funeral, Lucian didn't shed a single tear. If there's nothing else, I'm going back. They need me over there, Lucian said expressionlessly. His father angrily threw a teacup at his feet. You ungrateful son, are you determined to get yourself killed over there? Your mother and your brother are dead. Are you trying to kill me too? Lucian suppressed the storm raging inside him and said calmly, So what do you want? I've already arranged a marriage for you. As long as you marry the Joe family's daughter, the company will be saved. Lucian frowned, searching his memory for the Joe family. He froze. The Joe family's daughter you're talking about, is she Ethan Hawthorne's cousin? His father was surprised for a moment. Yes, you've come to your senses. The Hawthorne family is in a huge mess, and Ethan refuses to marry that Jasmine woman. It looks like their family line is about to end. Do you think his aunt would agree to this? Lucian sneered. The Hawthornes were all bad news. Hey, where are you going? To find Ethan Hawthorne, his father thought Lucian had finally seen reason and was going to discuss the marriage with Ethan. But instead, Lucian went to a bar, found Ethan, and beat him to a pulp. After getting his revenge on Jasmine, Ethan had lost interest in his work. He wanted to find Lee, but his aunt had confiscated his passport and had him under constant surveillance. So he spent his days and nights drunk in bars, torturing himself until he was a shadow of his former self. Lucian's punch snapped him out of it, and Ethan fought back. He threw a punch, every blow landing with force. But in the end, it was still a one-sided beating from Lucian. Who the hell are you? I've never done anything to you. Why are you hitting me? Ethan vented. Lucian sneered and let him go, slowly wiping the blood from his hands with a look of disgust. If it weren't for Zane, do you think you would have deserved to have her for 3 years? Trash, the haze in Ethan's eyes suddenly cleared. He scrambled to block Lucian's path. You know, Lee, where is she now? Where is she? Lucian kicked him away. You don't deserve to look for her, you deserve to be a rotten person to suffer for all eternity. If you have any conscience left, then take good care of your brother's heart. With that, Lucian hailed a cab to the airport and flew back to Lee's side that night. Chapter 20. When Ethan woke up, he saw Jasmine asleep by his bedside. His mind was filled with Lucian's words from the night before. Take good care of Zane's heart. For a rare moment, he didn't lash out at Jasmine. Jasmine was woken by his movement, her eyes blurry with tears. Ethan, my love, does it hurt? Ethan shook his head. No, Jasmine was stunned. This was the first time since her birthday that Ethan had spoken to her so calmly. She was overwhelmed. Jasmine threw herself into his arms, crying. Ethan, my love, please stop torturing yourself. It hurts me to see you like this. Even if you don't like me, you have to think about our child. Don't you want to hear it call you daddy one day? Please, just touch it. Jasmine took Ethan's hand and placed it on her abdomen, her words a constant stream of pleading. Our baby is 3 months old now. The doctor says it's very healthy. Look, it's kicking me. The sudden movement of the baby made Ethan's mind wander. His eyes softened. If only the person before him were Lee, how wonderful that would be, but there were no if-onlys. Ethan made a decision. He slowly withdrew his hand, his gaze clearing. Let's go home. Jasmine was overjoyed. Really? Ethan, my love, have you come to your senses? Are you finally willing to accept me? Her eyes were filled with anticipation and shyness, as if they were back in the early days of their romance. But Ethan knew in his heart that nothing could ever go back. Jasmine, as she wished, moved from Agnes's house back to Ethan's. Before she left, Agnes warned her, protect our Hawthorne family's heir. If anything happens, I'll make you wish you were dead. Jasmine's teeth itched with hatred, but she still answered respectfully. She knew that no one in the Hawthorne family liked her. All they cared about was the child in her belly, the sole heir to the Hawthorne fortune. Perhaps after she gave birth, they would force her out. The more she thought about it, the more desperately she tried to please Ethan. Ethan, for his part, stopped his self-destructive behavior and went to work on time every day. When he came home, he would take care of her, spoiling her until she became arrogant. A month later, she even brought up the idea of getting married. Ethan's hand, which was chopping vegetables, paused. He didn't answer. Jasmine wrapped her arms around him, cooing, Darling, don't you want our child to have a name? Okay, I promise. Ethan put down the knife and looked at Jasmine's belly. At 4 months, it was starting to show. Any bigger, and it would be hard to fit into a wedding dress. Jasmine said eagerly, Then let's take our wedding photos tomorrow and get married within the month, okay. Meeting Jasmine's expectant gaze, Ethan said calmly, The company is a bit busy right now. How about we arrange the wedding after this busy period? Seeing Ethan relent, Jasmine also took a step back. Of course, a month passed, and Ethan still showed no signs of hurry, making Jasmine anxious. She was about to press him again, but he beat her to it. How about we get married at the end of next month? Jasmine was ecstatic, her eyes filling with tears as she agreed. She immediately started planning the wedding, going for the most luxurious options for everything. She even invited all the city's elites and her friends from inside and outside the entertainment industry to their wedding. She was determined to have a grand wedding to show all the people who had looked down on her how prestigious her status was now. Chapter 21. After receiving the wedding invitation from the Hawthorne family, Lucian couldn't help but go and complain to Lee. A scumbag and a wench, a match made in heaven. Lee, your ex-boyfriend is marrying the other woman. Don't you have any thoughts on that? Lee glanced at the electronic invitation. The name Ethan Hawthorne was glaringly obvious, but it no longer stirred any feelings in her heart. Are you going to the wedding? Lee suddenly asked. Of course not, Lucian said casually, but Lee said, I want to go. Lucian's eyes widened in shock. Are you kidding me? Going to their wedding? I think you're crazy. I don't care at all that Ethan and Jasmine are getting married, but I want to feel his heartbeat one last time. This will be the last time. After this, we'll go our separate ways. There was a hint of pleading in Lee's voice. She wanted to feel Zane's heartbeat one last time. It would be like walking down the aisle with him. In the end, Lucian agreed. He returned to the country a week early, and they settled into a hotel near the wedding venue. That week was the most peaceful week of Lee's life. From birth, Her parents had been martyrs who had died for their country. She had been raised in a community for the families of martyrs, growing up on the kindness of her neighbors. Everyone had high hopes for her, hoping she would follow in her parents' footsteps and bring glory to the country. There were many ways to do that, but she had chosen the most difficult and dangerous path: the peacekeeping and rescue team. She had watched her friends and her beloved fall before her, her faith crumbling countless times. But each time, she had gotten back up and moved forward. She had been foolish and humble, all because Zane's heart was in Ethan's body. But then she had returned to the rescue team without a second thought, living a life of wandering. This week was a vacation she had given herself. For once in her life, she didn't have to be on high alert. The day before Ethan and Jasmine's wedding, Lee saw their wedding photos playing on the big screens of the buildings outside her window. Their pictures were plastered all over the streets. They looked very happy. "If you regret it, you still have a chance now. Tomorrow, at the wedding, it'll be too late," Lucien said, having entered the room at some point. Lee rolled her eyes. "Who's regretting it? You've been staring for half a day. If you're not regretting it, who is?" Lee found it funny and ignored him. Meanwhile, a photo started to go viral online. A war correspondent had published a news story. It wouldn't have gotten much attention, but Lee was in the photo, front and center. If one fan recognized her, 1,000 would. Overnight, the photo of Lee, rifle in hand, in a war zone went viral. Countless netizens flooded the comments section. "Is she really there? I thought she was just doing it for publicity. You're so brave, Lee Vance. A role model for our generation, who was slandering her before? She's the descendant of heroes. How could anyone dare to insult her?" Among all the comments, Lee noticed the one that was pinned to the top. It was a comment from Ethan's verified account. "As long as she's safe, I'm relieved." Under his comment, countless netizens replied with question marks. Most were calling him shameless for trying to ride her coattails, but Ethan didn't respond. Lee's heart pounded. What was he trying to do? Play the devoted ex. Lee made a call, and the trending topic about her being in a war zone vanished without a trace. Chapter 22. Jasmine, still oblivious to all this, was basking in the joy of her impending wedding. But the master of ceremonies told her that Ethan was missing. "What do you mean you can't find him? What are you all good for?" Jasmine was frantic, smashing everything within reach. The MC and the makeup artist recoiled in disgust. "Miss Miller, perhaps you should see what happened on social media last night." Jasmine took out her phone. Although the original news story was gone, many netizens had taken screenshots and reposted the trending topic from the night before. Jasmine threw her phone against the wall in a rage. Lee, why is she everywhere? Why won't she just die? Is she trying to torment me even after she's gone?" The MC happened to be one of Lee's loyal fans. Her words were sharp. "Why are you so angry, Miss Miller? Our Lee is so outstanding. It's normal for Mr. Hawthorne to regret not marrying you. I think you should be worrying about how to face the crowd outside." With that, she and the makeup artist left. Jasmine was furious and helpless. After calling Ethan a dozen times with no answer, she had no choice but to call his aunt. Unfortunately, after moving back in with Ethan, Jasmine had become arrogant and looked down on everyone. Ethan's aunt had been so angry that she had blocked her number. With no other options, Jasmine had to go on stage and start the wedding herself. The murmurs from the audience grew louder, making Jasmine's face burn. Just as she was about to flee, the doors of the banquet hall opened. The blare of funeral music filled the air as Ethan entered with a funeral procession. Lucien in the audience watched with great interest. Lee beside him frowned. Jasmine's eyelid twitched, her voice trembling. You did this on purpose." A large, ugly coffin was dropped in front of her, making her stumble backward in fear. Ethan laughed like a madman. "Yes, I've waited so long for this day. Jasmine, if it weren't for you, Lee wouldn't have left me. I told you, you deserve to die." Jasmine collapsed to the floor, shaking. "No, are you going to kill me in front of everyone? This is a crime. The law won't let you get away with this." Ethan gave her a sinister smile, and a wave of dread washed over her. "Idiot, why would I just kill you? This coffin isn't for you. It's for the child in your womb." Jasmine's face was a mask of terror as Ethan continued. "Did you forget the milk you drank every night? I made it specially for you. It will ensure your child is born a stillborn, and even if it isn't, it will be disabled." Lee understood. Ethan was forcing Jasmine to abort the child herself, to make her live with regret and guilt for the rest of her life. That was the only way to truly torture someone. Lucien remarked from the side, "This is quite a show. Worth the trip." Jasmine stared at Ethan in disbelief. She never thought he could be so cruel. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw a familiar figure in the audience. A towering tree of hatred grew in her heart. Lee. Jasmine staggered to her feet and lunged towards her. "This is all your fault, go to hell," Lucien, with his quick reflexes, pulled Lee back, dodging Jasmine's attack. He wanted nothing to do with her. When Ethan saw the person he had been longing for, he stopped his crazed act. He ran to Lee's side. "Lee, is that you?" Ethan's eyes were red. Before Lee could speak, Jasmine, consumed by hatred, screamed. "Won't you deserve to die?" She grabbed a knife from a nearby table and lunged at Lee, but Ethan shoved her into a champagne tower. In an instant, countless shards of glass pierced Jasmine's abdomen. Her blood-curdling screams echoed through the banquet hall. A pool of blood spread out beneath her, a horrifying sight. My baby, Ethan, save my baby," Jasmine sobbed, reaching out a trembling hand to grab Ethan's pant leg. But Ethan kicked her in the abdomen, his voice vicious. "Who gave you permission to hurt Lee?" The smell of blood filled the air. No one could bear to watch. It was Lee who stopped him. Ethan froze, turning to look at the woman he had been dreaming of. "Lee, come to me. It was all my fault before. I know I was wrong. I'll apologize. I'll even kneel to you. Just come back to me, please." Ethan knelt before Lee, kowtowing repeatedly. "Didn't you always want to marry me? Let's get married. Let's go get the license right now, okay?" Seeing Lee remain unmoved, even calmly calling for an ambulance for Jasmine, Ethan's composure shattered. He reverted to his old, arrogant self from when they had lived together. To others, it was just ugly. "Lee, what do you want?" "I'm warning you, don't push it. I just made a mistake that all men make. I've already apologized. How long are you going to be unreasonable?" His words were so crude that even Lucien couldn't stand it. He kicked Ethan away. "What a piece of work, Lee. Don't listen to him. Let's go." Lee hummed in agreement and left without another glance at Ethan. Chapter 23. Lee and Lucien went to Zane's grave. It was a mess, a sight that filled them with anger. "That bastard Ethan Hawthorne," Lucien cursed. Lee just silently righted the tombstone, using her sleeve to wipe away the dirt without a second thought. After a long time, a light rain began to fall. Lee picked up the tombstone and the urn and started to walk away. "Where are you going?" "To the National Cemetery." It had been 4 years. It was time for her to move on. She used to think that by keeping Zane's urn and tombstone with her, he would always be by her side. But Zane was a hero. He had his own beliefs and mission. Even in death, he shouldn't be tied down by earthly love. He belonged to the nation. Because of the matter of moving Zane's grave, Lee stayed in the city for half a month. Ethan found out where she was staying and camped out in front of her hotel day and night, even booking the room next to hers. Wherever Lee went, he followed. It was Lucien who finally had enough and took Lee to stay in the martyr's family community. The moment Ethan showed up, he was beaten back by the guards. Jasmine, lying in a hospital bed between life and death, went insane. She would chase after people, asking if they had seen her baby. She would often let out strange laughter in the middle of the night, terrifying the entire floor. The doctors had no choice but to transfer her to a psychiatric hospital. But on the way there, she managed to escape. Jasmine followed her memory of the Hawthorne house, walking for a whole day to get there. She ran into a drunk Ethan on his way home. Frustrated by his repeated failures with Lee, Ethan grabbed Jasmine by the hair and beat her senseless. When he was tired, he locked her in the dark basement. At first, Jasmine had the strength to pound on the door and call for help, but after 2 days, she was on the verge of death. Ethan continued his daily ritual of trying to see Lee, despite getting beaten up every time. It wasn't until the police came to investigate Jasmine's disappearance that Ethan remembered her existence. The stench of a rotting corpse filled the Hawthorne house. Jasmine's body was in a horrific state. No one would have recognized the once glamorous actress. Only Ethan, upon seeing the body, let out a sudden laugh and applauded. Once you got what you deserved, Ethan was arrested and sent to prison. He was restless even there, constantly fighting with other inmates and demanding to be let out to see Lee. He had both his legs broken and his tongue cut out, becoming a disfigured cripple. When he was on the verge of death, Lee came to visit him. Despite having prepared herself, Lee was still shocked by Ethan's appearance. Unshaven, with dark purple circles under his eyes, one eyeball bulging, his body broken and incomplete, he looked nothing like the golden boy she had first known. Ethan forced what he thought was a gentle smile, wanting to call out her nickname. But all he could manage was a muffled ooh-ooh sound, revealing a bloody mouth. Lee said calmly, "You don't have to speak, just listen to me." Meeting her calm, tranquil eyes, a sense of powerlessness washed over Ethan. His already trembling body went limp. "Ethan Hawthorne, I'm sorry to have to talk to you like this. I came today to confess something about your brother Zane. Zane was my beloved. He was, he is, and he always will be. For the past 3 years, I was only with you because I couldn't let him go, couldn't let his heart go. But I can tell you with certainty that I have no feelings for you whatsoever. Not even hatred. So you don't have to live like this because no matter what you do, you're just a clown in my eyes. I'm leaving now to a place of life and death to fulfill the dream Zane and I shared. Goodbye." Not long after Lee returned to the war zone, news broke that Ethan had committed suicide in prison. They said his eyes were still open when he died. Lucien secretly handed Lee a bottle of juice. "Half for you. Don't say I never share the good stuff." Lee smiled and gave the juice to Tanner and his friends. This drew a strong protest from Lucien. That was from my private stash, I wouldn't even drink it myself." Lee raised an eyebrow. "So?" Lucien was momentarily dazed by her smile, then looked away awkwardly. Fine, you're the boss," he grumbled. Lee's smile was bright as she looked at the group of captured terrorists in the distance, her heart filled with emotion. If Zane were still alive, he would be so happy to see this. "Sister, are you and brother Lucien a couple?" Tanner couldn't help but ask. Lee shook her head. "No, but we share the same mission."